Well, friends, our scripture lesson today is taken from the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 8, verses 26 through 39. Then they arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. As he stepped out on land, a man of the city who had demons met him. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he did not live in a house, but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he fell down before him and shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many times it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the wilds. For many times it had seized him. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They begged him not to order them to go back into the abyss. Now there on the hillside, a large herd of swine was feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When the swineherd saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came out to see what had happened, and when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. Friends, this is the word of the Lord. Well, a friend of mine sent me a meme last week, and he actually he sent it because he didn't believe that it was really much of a choice. And the meme was simply this. It said, you can go through the blue door, and you go back in time and fix all your mistakes. Or you can go through the red door, and you get $10 million in cash. And he sent it to me, and he said, "I'm taking the cash." He said, "Of course I'm taking the cash." And he said the reason why he's taking the cash is that my mistakes are already baked in. You know, he's kind of happy with his life. He likes his family. He's happy with where he's at. So he said, my mistakes are baked in. Give me the cash. But, you know, I was thinking about what he said, about that one line, this idea that his mistakes are baked in to who he is. All right? And I wonder to what extent that actually applies to us. To what extent do we actually think of the things that are bad in our lives, the things that we do wrong in our lives, the sin within us? How much of that do we actually get to the point that we believe is just baked in? And it's just a part of who we are. This is kind of what had happened to the man in the story. It's one of my favorite passages where this man has demons, and for a long time he wore no clothes and did not live in a house but in the tombs. He was clearly unstable. He was unwelcome in his society. He was possessed by so many demons. I kind of relate to that. Not the without clothes and living in the tombs part, but I kind of relate to the idea that there's so many things, within me that aren't what they ought to be. And in this story, Jesus, encounters the man, and the demons are talking to Jesus, and they go, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." They recognize Jesus. They know who he is. They know the power that he has. Remember, this is a continuing theme in Scripture. Satan talks to Jesus. Satan knows who Jesus is. Satan knows he's the Son of God, all right? It's not ignorance that's the reason for their rebellion, all right? It's not ignorance. And so the demons talk to Jesus and say, "Look, I beg you, do not torment me." He just wants to be left alone. Our demons want to be left alone. And Jesus says, "What's your name?" And his answer is Legion, for many demons had entered him. Now, understand that this word legion is a Roman military term, all right? And when they say many demons, we're not talking about like 6, okay? A legion is the largest unit in the Roman military. So a Roman legion had between 5,000 and 6,000 soldiers, okay? So when the name is legion, we're talking thousands of demons. We're not talking, a half a dozen, couple dozen. We're talking thousands of demons within the person. And in the passage, it's actually kind of confusing because when you read the dialogue, it sort of goes back and forth between singular and plural. It goes from I to we to them, that kind of thing. It goes back and forth because the demons had so completely owned this person that they were indistinguishable from him. And so you really could not tell where is the man and where are the demons. It's one and the same. See, the person had become indistinguishable from his demons because, when the demons get baked into your identity, they just become a part of who you are. And when that happens, once the bad stuff has baked in and become a part of your identity, then the decision to try and free yourself of those things becomes that much harder because it begins to feel like freedom from them would mean losing a piece of yourself. They've become a part of your identity. They've become a part of how you perceive yourself. I mean, this happens a lot, right? A lot of people sit there and they talk about themselves and they say, oh, yeah, well, I've got these flaws, but they're a part of who I am. They're a part of what makes me me. That's what it means to have them get baked into your identity. And the demons, well, they want to remain demons. So they begged Jesus to go to the pigs. I mean, remember, they wanted to be demons. So they said, Jesus, don't get rid of us. Don't destroy us. And they also didn't say, don't heal us. They never asked to not be demons. They said, no, let me go to the pigs. And then when they go to the pigs, they enter the swine. They drive the pigs crazy. By the way, remember, this is in the land opposite Galilee. They're not in Jewish territory because there's no such thing as a Jewish pig farmer. Okay, that's not really going to work real well. All right. The demons came out of the man. They enter the swine, and the herd rushes down the bank, and they're drowned. By the way, there's nothing in the scriptures with a good, solid demonology here. Like, do demons drown? I don't know. Right? Don't ask me minutia like that. I don't know. It's not there. But there's kind of a presumption that they would rather drown. We kind of presume that when the person dies, the demons died. I don't know what exactly. But they would rather have died or perished or whatever. They would rather have remained demons than be changed. Because demons are stubborn. But so are we. We're pretty stubborn. We're pretty stubborn about our identity. And this is always a tension we have to deal with in church. Because on the one hand, we do not want to be the kinds of Christians who run around with our heads down going, I'm terrible, I'm a sinner, I'm terrible, I'm a sinner, I'm horrible, I'm a sinner. Some of us grew up in churches like that, where that's all we were told, that you're such a horrible person, you are so unworthy of the love of God, you're just horrible, horrible, horrible. You don't want to be that. But you also don't want to be, sin's okay, it's just a part of who you are. You also don't want to be that. You don't want to normalize the bad. So you have to balance this. We have to balance this in the way we talk about it. We have to remember that there is stuff within us that is not good, that we would be better off without. But that we are still loved by God. that we are still children of God. We're still cared for, and that nothing that we do can separate us from that love. We always have to remember that while we don't normalize what's bad. But, we tend to normalize this to the point where I wonder how you would answer this. Suppose that one of your choices was this. If you could decide to never again commit any sin at all, would you do it? I mean, the big ones, sure. Okay, none of us want to do the big ones. All right, so please make sure I don't commit any of the big ones, but nothing, not a one. All right, I'll bet you, if we actually talked about it, because I know I would have this question. If someone came to me and offered me that, my first question would be, exactly what's a sin? Well, exactly what's a sin? Is this a sin? Because it doesn't feel quite right, but I kind of like it. It's kind of like, I go to the doctor and the doctor tells me to lose weight, eat healthy, but I just am not going to completely give up bacon. Just not. Okay? It's not going to happen. And there's nothing more comforting than when the doctor says, oh, but a little bit's okay. A little bit. Moderation, right? We love that word. Everything's okay in moderation. The problem is that I think we actually get to that point when we start talking about sin. A little bit's okay, just in moderation. But it's not. It's not, because we have to remember that you were created good. Not good and bad, not mostly good. You were created good. The essence of who you are supposed to be, who you are in the fullness of God's image when God created you, is entirely good. Not good with a little sprinkling of bad just to add a little spice to life, but completely and entirely good. But that's actually really difficult for us to imagine. What would it actually be like to eradicate everything within me that isn't good? That's actually frightening. Look at what happens here. See, this is such a human passage to me. They find the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. I mean, if we put a fill in the blank at the end of that and hadn't shown you the passage and just said they found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus clothed and in his right mind, and they were blank. Do you think the word would be afraid? I would have expected the word to be, and they were amazed, and they were overjoyed. They were thrilled for him. No, they were afraid. Seeing him in his right mind was scary. Because one of the most frightening powers is the power to change. Change is scary. One is fear of what the outcome of the change is going to be. That's why it's so hard to get change to happen. Even when people understand that the status quo isn't good, it is really difficult to get change to happen. It doesn't happen in our government. It doesn't happen in our companies. It doesn't happen in our lives. Because even when we understand that the status quo isn't good, change is scary because we're not sure exactly what it would be like. And then we're fearful of the power itself. God is certainly the only one I would trust with the power to change me. The power to change us is so huge. It's something that people are afraid of. And the fear of it impacts our ability to move forward in life. because it's so much easier to accept the status quo. It is so much easier to accept that what is just baked in. They even had to explain that this was healing. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. They had to explain the healing that had happened. They had to explain that the demons were gone and this was the real person. They didn't know what they were seeing. Because sometimes we don't even know what healed looks like. We can be suspicious of it. We can think it's a gimmick. Have you ever known somebody who really kind of turned their life around and you weren't really sure that it was real? Is it a gimmick? Is it a trick? Is it going to last? That's why it's so hard for people to get second chances. That's why we've had to use laws and things to try and give persons with a criminal record a second chance in life, because it is so easy for us to believe that a person who has done something wrong is going to keep doing something wrong, that they can't actually be transformed. Sometimes I wonder what I would look like if I were totally healed. It's threatening in a lot of ways to my identity, because even some of the things that are good, I'll see a lot of the things that are actually demons in our lives masquerade as things that are acceptable. I can tell you, within me, you go deep down. Do we think ambition is a bad thing? I don't think we'd want to be people who have no ambition. And yet, ambition lies at the root of a lot of issues in life. A lot of the things that motivate me, even that motivate me in a good direction, actually have their basis in insecurity and trauma. So I wonder, if those were healed, what would happen to the fruits of it? A lot of people who are driven to succeed in life, that drive emanated from actually negative things in their lives. And I think they would be worried. If you healed the negative, would they still have the drive? And if they didn't have the drive, would they still be who they are? And if they didn't have the drive, would that actually be good? Would the world be better off? And yet, we have to trust that if everyone were healed, if everyone were actually the person that God created them to be, that yes, indeed, the world would be better off. It just might look different. But it's such a scary prospect that they asked Jesus to leave. Seems kind of ridiculous. Jesus performs this incredible act of healing on this person who had been in their midst for years, and instead of thanking Jesus and welcoming him, they asked him to leave. Because what he had done was really disruptive. First of all, he destroyed someone's livestock. That herd of pigs that ran down the hill and drowned themselves, that was property, that was income, that was food. In the course of healing, Jesus had actually disrupted their economy. That was scary to them. He disrupted the status quo. And they wanted him to leave before he did it again. No more healing, Jesus. It's scary. We don't know what it's going to lead to. And I wonder if that ever impedes our own ability to make progress and change in our own lives. Whether we don't make progress and change in our own lives because the status quo, it's baked in. We know it. We're familiar with it. Are we really willing to change? There's a One of the things that I do a lot is I listen to leadership podcasts and subscribe to email lists and that kind of thing. And a very simple thing came across my email last week. And it was just a simple one-page PDF file from a company called Church Fuel. They just do leadership things for churches. And it was just a simple one-page document called a personal growth plan. And the idea, we're coming up on summer, and I looked at this and I said, I'm going to use this, because it just had a few things to fill in. Because, if you can think about this, and I'm sure all of you think about this kind of thing all the time, but if you don't write it down, if you don't have a plan, if you don't, put it on a piece of paper and, tape it somewhere where you can see it, you're not going to do it. And so it had a few simple things in it, like where are the areas of growth that you need to make? And then toward it, what are some of the things you could do? Just list 3 books that you're going to read to move you in that direction. What are 3 podcasts that you could listen to that would move you in that direction? What relationships should you invest in that would help you grow? Simple things. In fact, that one-pager, I've got them in the back. You can pick one up on your way out so that you can, hopefully some of you will use it. It's also available on our website. If you go to the homepage on our website, you'll see a button there labeled Personal Growth Plan PDF, and you can just click on it and you can download that simple one-pager to just hopefully maybe as we get into the summer, as you think about what you might do where life slows down for a lot of people, just think about a few things you could add to do it. And then 3 simple things at the bottom. These are such simple questions that we ask ourselves all the time, but I just want you to write it down so that you make that commitment. I think once you write it down, you've made kind of a psychological commitment to it. And it's just 3 simple questions. What should I stop doing? What should I keep doing? And what should I start doing? It's really simple. But we have to decide that we're going to do it. We have to decide that just a few things I need to stop. There are a few things I'm doing good for me, keep doing it. And there are a few things that I need to start. And by the way, the stop is really important to the start, because that's how you make room. You make room. If you just think about the start, you'll end up saying, I'm too busy, I have no time to do this. You have to do the stop in order to make room for the start. What should I stop doing? What should I keep doing? And are we willing to keep on that path to the point where all of the negatives might be removed? Because I think one of the scariest prayers we could ever pray would be to do this, to dare to ask God to remove all of our demons. Not just the big ones, not just the obvious ones, not just the ones that are interfering with our ability to function, but all of them. Especially the ones that we think are acceptable. Especially the ones that we think are a part of who we are. Would we dare to ask God to remove them all? Because if they're all gone, that would actually fulfill God's intention for each of us. That we actually become the purest, truest version of ourselves, the one that God had in mind when God created us. Because God did not create you imagining you both good and bad. God did not create you imagining you doing what God would rather you not do. God created you with an image of you as entirely good. Do we dare ask God to launch us into that vision? It's frightening. And yet, incredibly exciting and hopeful and loving to know that this is what God intends for us. And I know it's not easy. I know that if it happened to me, I'd walk in and you'd say, "Who are you?" But it would be an unimaginable improvement. So can we dare to ask God for this? And would we dare to take a few simple steps to make progress, to move toward it, to stop a few things we need to stop, and start a few things we need to start in order to become more of what God intends? Amen.